Hi everyone, welcome to Redis Released Worldwide. My name is Keith Messick and I'll be your virtual tour guide today. We've taken this roadshow all over the world this year, to India, to Singapore, to London, and New York. And it's been great to see the Redis community around the world, and we're happy to be with you here virtually today. And even though this is virtual, we're working really hard to make it feel in person. So first of all, this is a technical conference. We're going to talk a lot about the product. So things available today in Redis that you might not know about, what to expect in upcoming releases, including Redis 8. And of course, it's 2024, so we're obligated to talk a lot about AI, but specifically how to think about Redis and use Redis in your AI stack. And finally, and most importantly, you'll hear from many Redis customers who are going to tell their story and use cases of how they use Redis. Everything you see today was shot in New York a few weeks ago, but like I said, the goal here is to make it feel like you're live and in person. So we'll have a team of solution architects available in the chat ready to answer all of your questions. And have a little fun throughout the day, there will be a few ways to win some swag. So first of all, we're going to post survey questions in the chat. It's really simple. The more you answer, the better your chances are of winning. And we'll have a contest to submit your best dev one-liner. Puns are very welcome, sort of like this shirt. Redis Save My Apps. Now I think you can do better than my team on this one, so let's see it. The winning answer is going to be put on a t-shirt, and we'll send that out to the first 300 participants in the contest. So let's see your best work. Finally, because it's virtual, the beauty of that is if you miss any sessions, we'll have recordings to share with you after the event. But for now, I'll get out of the way and let's get started with our CEO, Rowan Trollope, as he talks to us about what's next for Redis. Let's get started.
Wow, great to see everybody this morning. Thanks for coming out. Really appreciate it. We have an action-packed day. We have 6 announcements, so we just want to jump right into them. Before I kind of do that, I want to just give you an update on the company and how we've been doing. A lot of you are our customers, or there's some prospects as well, but most of you are our customers. Company has been doing great. We're now up to over 9 billion downloads on Docker. It's just a sort of an unbelievable number. Lots of those are, maybe some of those are automated, but we are the most downloaded Docker container, I think, in history. So it's a super exciting thing, and it's really been dramatically increasing recently. We also have over 3 million developers in 118 countries using Redis. And so there's lots more people like you out there in the world, and we're really excited and honored to be able to talk to you about the capabilities and features that we've been hearing from you that you want. And that's 3 million developers in a lot of countries, from some of the biggest companies in the world, like we have some of the folks here. You're representing some of the largest and biggest companies in the world, but also all the way down to the 2-person startup in Silicon Valley or here in New York or anywhere else in the world. Just there are people all over the world using Redis, and it's really, really great to see. A couple of examples. Uber is one great example of that, who have been a great sort of user of Redis and demonstrating the power of that. They have it sitting in front of their multi-petabyte database. Probably a lot of you took Uber to get here today. We want that experience to be really fast. We don't want it to be slow. We're using Redis in that case to make sure that experience is great. Or if you've used ChatGPT in the last year or two, they had, I think it was the fastest scaling enterprise SaaS company in history. They got to 200 million active users faster than any other company in history. And I think a few months into that incredible scaling journey, they actually did issue a blog post thanking Redis for the help in helping them scale. They said they couldn't have done it without Redis. So super exciting to see that. And it's not just the big companies. Like I said, we sit right in the middle of Silicon Valley. You could throw a rock and hit 100 startups with 2 people, and many of them are also using Redis, especially for the Gen AI apps. So a lot of customers, and what I've been doing is talking to a lot of them, and what I've heard is from customers, whether it's the smallest or the biggest, is really how can how could we use Redis more in our application? And there are a set of asks and requests from our customers about how we can do that. And we thought today, and this is going to be a representation of everything that we've been doing for a while, we'll unpack that for you. We'll share with you how you can use Redis beyond the killer use case for Redis, which is caching. Many of you use this for caching, but there's a lot more you can do with it, and we want to share a little bit of that with you. Hopefully you can take that back to your companies and share something new that you heard today. So we'll dive into it. Now, earlier this year, I did want to make a comment about something that we changed earlier this year, and that was the software license. It's just show of hands, how many of you are aware that we changed our software license? Okay, just a handful of you. So we did change our software license, and the intention of doing that was to protect our code and our intellectual property so that our competitors in Google and Amazon, who are also, by the way, our partners, would stop shipping our code and not paying us for it, essentially. So that's a change that we had to make. And a lot of open source companies, especially, the very successful ones, have actually made that change in the past, like MongoDB, like Elasticsearch. Recently, I think the guys at HashiCorp did that, and so on and so forth. So this is a change that a lot of people make. But the reason I bring it up today is to make it very clear that it doesn't affect any of our customers. So Redis remains free. The source code is open. It's all published online. We take contributions. There's no restrictions on any enterprise or software business from using our software whatsoever. You can use our software on-prem, as you always have, for free if you want. Of course, we would like you to pay us for our paid version, but we have to earn that. But you can also use us in the cloud. You can deploy and self-manage in Elasticache or GCP or any of those places. So nothing has changed for our customers, but this change did have a big impact in terms of what we have been able to do for you. Because as a result of having a somewhat, let's call it, open license, what we were doing previously is we were taking a lot of the cool, new, innovative features and shipping it in a new distribution called Redis Stack. If you've downloaded or used Redis Stack, it was a little bit confusing as to, well, why are there two versions of Redis? I don't understand this. And wouldn't it be way better, at least from a developer's perspective, if there was just one version of Redis that had everything built in? And so that's what we've been able to do in the last year, is to take all of that capability that we had been building on the side and actually build it into the core of Redis. So really, really exciting. It means that you get a lot more capabilities coming at you. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what are all those capabilities and how we've been able to build all this for you. Okay, so let's dive in. And I'm going to talk about all those new capabilities. And they kind of come into three buckets. And the first bucket is what I just talked about, which is the open source. What's that on your, yeah, it's on your right. The first bucket is the open source and our community edition, was what we call our community editions. If you go to our website and you download it, if you're a developer, that's what you'll get. And we have a set of capabilities that we're delivering there for free. And then second bucket of capabilities we've been working on is the developer experience. Super important to all of us who are developers is to make sure that we deliver an incredible experience to you. So we'll talk about some of the work that we've done there. And then finally, we'll talk about our enterprise version, our platform, and our cloud in terms of how do we deliver all that capability to you with all the manageability and security and compliance and reporting and monitoring and observability that you need to run us in an enterprise. So those are the three buckets, and I'm going to walk you through each one and just unpack what we've done in each of them. So let's just go ahead and dive in. We'll start with the community edition. By the way, we're going to do some demos too. So let's go ahead and roll the video to talk about what we've been doing on our community edition. Okay, so this is Redis 8. It is available this quarter on the Redis Community Edition, and it's going to be delivered as part of Redis Cloud and Redis software. So this is what it is. We're going to talk about what's in Redis 8. There's a ton in here. And I'm going to start out with, I think, one of the most exciting features and capabilities that's now part of Redis, or will be as part of Redis 8, is the Redis Query Engine. This is something we've been working on for a long time. It includes our vector similarity search, our world's fastest vector database. That's all part of this. Redis Query Engine, very, very excited to bring that capability into Redis 8. So that means that you no longer have to create separate indexes on your own. In our key value store, you can let Redis do all the hard work. So this is a real game changer, and it's built into the free version of Redis. So that's a huge addition. And you can use that for full text search. You can use it for vector. You can use it for querying your data and indexing it. So really, really exciting. We can talk about the details there. We're going to do a demo. The next is the unified data model. So we have been working, for the last few years to add all these additional data types into Redis. It is certainly way better to use our new JSON support, which we have added, instead of converting everything into JSON strings and storing them in hashes or whatever we were doing before. We were just straight strings. So there's really, really good improvements that we've made around storing JSON documents directly and natively in Redis. Huge benefits from a developer's perspective. We've also added other exciting capability or other exciting data types like time series and probabilistic data, and we'll even demonstrate vector for you here today. So super exciting on that front. And on vector, we've been working hard to add more and more and more capabilities to vector. We're actually going to show you a few of those. I won't go into them here, but we've been optimizing our algorithms and working on also native integrations of Redis vector database into a new client called Redis VL, vector library. Got to get that right. That's Python library, so you can use that to use our vector database. So a ton of good work across the boards. There's a lot more I could talk about here, security and other capabilities and fixes and expiring hash keys and all kinds of other stuff. So we're actually going to demonstrate some of that for you. And so the other thing I will say, though, about Redis 8 is it's the only offering that works across all of the clouds. So as part of the license change, there has been a fork, and Google and Amazon have gone their own way with a different product, but we still continue to offer Redis through AWS, GCP, and Azure. You can get all of that through redis.io. Okay, so you can come to our website, you can choose what your backend cloud provider is. If you're going directly to the cloud provider, you need to go through the marketplace. If you go through the marketplace, then you can get Redis 8. Redis 8 will not be available as part of Elasticache. Redis 8 will not be available as part of Memory Store on Google. So if you're on Memory Store or Elasticache, you need to upgrade, move over to the marketplace version, okay? So that's what you have to do to get it. Now, best thing is let's just go ahead and give you a demo. So I'm going to invite on stage our demo master, Talon, and he is going to show us and walk us through some of these cool new features. Talon, come on up. Give him a big round of applause, everybody. Get my glasses out of the way. Good to see you.
Can you guys hear me okay? Audio working?
Yeah.
Awesome, perfect.
So what are we going to show him today?
So our first demo is going to be on Redis 8. And some of the great things coming from our enterprise version of Redis into our community edition. Now, I have a Node.js app here. And what I'm going to show you first is essentially this app. And this app is very simple. We're going to be fetching frequently asked questions or FAQs. And as you can see, as of right now, there's no search, there's no way to filter. It's pretty difficult for our customers to find the answers they're looking for. And also, there's a little bit of delay. We'll do a refresh. Takes a little bit too long, right? So there's two things I want to do. I want to speed things up, and I also want to add a search, or at least let's add full text search.
Right on.
So let's jump into the code. I have a number of UI elements I'm going to add to our site just so that we can toggle them on and off, just so we can test and validate our work. The first thing I'm going to add is a cache toggle. Go ahead and save that. And let's actually jump in to see how we're adding our cache to speed things up. Actually, let's go into API middleware. So here we're going to be fetching all of our FAQs currently stored in MongoDB, and then we're going to check to see if it exists in our cache. If not, we're going to load them into our cache. But let's see how we're actually entering that data into Redis. Let's get cache FAQs. So we're going to be setting all of our FAQs from MongoDB into Redis as JSON, which was not previously available in our Redis Community Edition, which is great. I think we can all agree it's a very easy and simple to use data structure. So that's it. Really just going to check our cache if FAQs exist. If not, we're going to fetch them from MongoDB. So now that I've saved and enabled our cache, I should be able to enable our toggle. And if we're lucky, we should see a faster refresh. So we'll go ahead and enable. This initial load is going to be loading all of our data into our cache. But hopefully, cross your fingers, that we'll refresh after this and we'll see a faster reload.
I don't know if we prayed to the demo gods earlier, but
Yeah, demo gods will be with us today. Let's see. All right, let's refresh. And
maybe not.
a little bit, a tiny bit faster, tiny bit faster. We have a little bit of an internet thing today, and also just a caveat: if we do have any technical issues today, I do have a recording that I can talk over as well. But either way, so we sped things up. Now I'm going to show you how to add search. Now, Rowan, I'm not sure what you would do before Redis 8, but if I was using the Community Edition and I didn't have our Redis query engine, I'd probably use Elastic. But I don't want to add another technology to the stack. So let me show you how easy it is to set up search with Redis. Now, the first thing that I like to do when I want to add full text search to my apps is I like to validate it in the database, right? Let's set up an index. So let's do that in Redis Insight. If you haven't seen or used Redis Insight, welcome. This is a great companion tool for while you're using Redis. In fact, let's refresh here. And also, pro tip, down arrow, auto refresh.
Oh.
Yeah, it's very useful.
That's a good one.
So yeah, we now have our FAQs cached here. We'll actually take a look at it really quick before we build our index. This is what our JSON looks like now that we have it cached in Redis. Okay, so I want to build my index, and I'll build my index in our workbench. We like to call it advanced CLI. We call it advanced because it has things like autocomplete. So I'll type in ft.search. It's going to give us a list of all of our commands, as well as, if I just tab here, a fuzzy prefix matching for arguments and parameters that we need to complete our Redis commands to make things super easy. Luckily, I do have the whole index copied, so you don't have to watch me type all day. But I actually want to go over this really quickly because it's really important for the rest of our code that we're going to be pointing to. So let's break this down. ft.create is full text.create, so we're creating an index. We're naming it idx_FAQs on JSON, the document I just showed you, right? We just ingested that. And then the schema is essentially just selecting the fields that we want to have in our index. You can have as little as many as you want. I happen to have all of our fields on our index. So we'll go ahead and execute that. Okay, that worked, perfect. Now, I want to validate that it's actually working in our database first before I start pointing code to it. So in Redis Insight, I can search based on index.
It's already created the index. You literally just did it, and now it's done.
Yeah, it's done.
Okay.
Our data is already showing here. If the index didn't work for some reason, let's say I messed up some of the fields, this data wouldn't be here. But we're seeing the keys right now that are associated with the index. And we can also do a quick search. Let's say, for example, we'll search ATM. There is our one JSON document that mentions ATM. It's as simple as that. So now I know it works. Let's actually point it to the code. So once again, I'm going to actually enable a UI element for us to turn on. In fact, it's just a search box. Save that. And then let's actually take a look at some of the magic. I'm going to take out our search results coming just from our FAQ cache, and I'll enable our search results for our search, okay? And let's take a look at how it actually works. So if you remembered our index, this is the important part. This is where all the magic is happening. We're going to check whether or not our user has any input or questions in our search box. If it does, it's going to search. See this ft.search? It's kind of the companion command to ft.create, and we're going to search across our IDX FAQs, index that we just created. And it's really as simple as that. We're going to return essentially what we want to, which I'm end up returning all of the fields just for our curiosity, but we can obviously pare that down. But it really is as simple as that. Create the index, search across the index, point it to the search box. Let's go ahead and go back to our app. Now let's search ATMs. Perfect, works.
Nice.
So
Okay.
those are the two things, speed things up and add search.
Okay.
But you want to try it out, Rowan?
Yeah, but what if I do? Can I do?
Yeah, try something,
All right.
just to validate.
Just to validate. Oh, you have your thing as reversed. That's not gonna work. It's not gonna work.
Yep.
How do I get cache?
Oh.
Okay, so what I would expect in a modern search engine, Talon, is that it should know that I'm asking about an ATM.
Shoot. You're right.
Okay.
Well, let's do something about that.
Do you think you can make that work?
Yeah.
By the way, he hasn't seen that one yet, so we'll see. We'll see how good we
Yeah,
are.
we'll see if we can make this work.
If you're searching on a website, I think you don't want to be entering exact keyword matches anymore.
Yeah.
So this should be, and it even said fuzzy, but it still didn't find it. So what can we do to make that work?
I think what you're talking about is adding semantic search or similarity search, right? So if
Whatever
there's
it
something
takes.
similar, right? If even if we all spoke the same language, there's going to be 15 different ways we could ask the same question, right? So let's add vector similarity search to our app, and I'll show you how easy it is. In fact, if you could follow along with the full text search, it's very, very similar. You shouldn't be intimidated by the fact that it has embeddings involved or vectors. It's actually quite simple. So let's go to the code. Once again, I'll enable a toggle for us, just so we can play with it here in a second.
Our developers are saying, wow, if it would just be that easy to add features to our product, just
Yeah,
uncomment
imagine.
them.
Yeah. I should do some live coding next time. So we now have our toggle. So let's take a look at how it works. So at the very top here, what I'm using is LangChain's OpenAI embeddings model, and I'm specifically using the text embeddings 3-small. It's really easy to use, actually. It searches across documents very, very well and provides embeddings for us to search on. And now, just like full text, the reason why I said full text and vector similarity search are very simple, it's because instead of searching on like a broad index of key value, like we were just showing, it's going to essentially search over embeddings on an index. And if you see here, in fact, I don't want to skip over, So this vector store right here, notice that we're creating a new index called FAQs vector index. So I'm not going to go back into Redis Insight and create another index. I'm doing it here in the code. But that's obviously important, is we're searching over the index of the embeddings. And the embeddings get created here. We're going to check whether the embeddings exist already in our app. If they don't, we're going to send our FAQs to our model, and then the model is going to return embeddings into Redis. And then we get to do some of the magic, which is setting up the similarity. How does that even work, right? Well, you can do a couple of different things. In this example, I'm actually just returning the top most 5 relevant documents. Another way to do this that's really popular is returning everything over a certain score, right? If it's over 80% confidence that it's similar to what the user's asking, let's return it. But in this case, I'm just going to return 5 documents that we find most similar. And then I'm building the relevance score, which I'm timesing by 100 just to give us a nice looking rounded up percentage. And then we return, once again, just like full text search, what do we want to return back to our user? I'm returning the question, answer, category, ID, as well as the score, which you normally wouldn't do for your users, but just for our use case, we want to see that today. And that's it. The rest is just formatting, so let's go and check out our app. Now, if pray to the demo gods once again. If I enable the semantic search, we should be able to see some results pop up. Oh,
Didn't work.
man.
Okay, wait. Okay, what?
Try something else.
Well, we want it to be something mapping close in vector space to
Yeah.
ATM. How about like from the machine? No.
Try.
Cache machine?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, it's not enabled. Did I not enable it?
Oh shit. Okay. Demo gods.
Let's see. It's kind of hard to see. Sorry.
It's not working.
I forgot one thing in the code, actually. So let's go to the API middleware. Right now, we're still returning the results from our full text. I need to switch it over to the semantic.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was my bad. Hey, at least we caught it, though. Demos are live, though, right? Let's see. I'm going to actually move this and put it back under here, and I'll show you why. So we'll uncomment this. So now we're actually going to return our semantic search results instead. And I'm just going to add that back down here so that if we don't have any embeddings, we're just still going to return our full text search. So it'll still work both ways. We'll save our work. Debugging live, everybody.
We're praying.
All right.
We're with you.
All right. I'm going to turn it
Try
off.
cache machine again or something like that.
Yeah. I'm going to turn it off again. I think that's off. What I'm going to do is type cache machine, and then I'll turn it on.
Because everyone calls it the cache machine. Just
Yeah.
FYI.
There we go. Just like that.
Hey-oh, good job. All right, Talon.
Got it over.
All right.
And
Vector search works.
Yes.
You know that.
So those are the 3 things. I think, first I wanted to speed things up. Second, I wanted to add full text search. And I guess we got a bonus. Thanks, Rowan, for pushing us forward, make things better. But yeah, that's our Redis 8 demo.
Thank you, Talon. All right, so that's Redis 8. Download it today. Redis.io. You can get it on GCP, AWS, on Azure. Very excited about that. Okay, so the next thing we wanted to talk about, and it's really following on from what we just showed you with vector search and with search, is, and what we just showed you was a really simple example. You could see it was really, really fast. But we've had this technology in Redis Stack for some time. And a lot of our customers, especially the ones on the Redis Enterprise or Redis Cloud version, have been using our Redis query engine, and they've been using it a lot. And they've been adding vector on top of it. And one of the challenges that we have found is that these search indexes have started to get really, really, really big. And as a result, you could imagine that these are going to start slowing down. Redis, for many years, has famously been single-threaded. It's one of the sort of design advantages. It may seem like it's not an advantage, but it is. It's been one of our design advantages and architectural differences is the way that we've engineered the product. But when it came to search, that design decision really just didn't make a lot of sense. And so we decided that we needed to go back to the drawing board and re-engineer the Redis query engine and make it multi-threaded natively. And what that does is it allows us to scale up to billions of vectors, massive databases, multi-hundreds of terabytes of data, and do that, again, with Redis speed, sub-millisecond latencies. And so that's the next exciting announcement that we have today is the multi-threaded Redis query engine. And you can get this today. It's available as part of Redis Cloud and Redis software. Now, we've done some benchmarks using some industry standard data. And surprise, surprise, we are the fastest across all the dimensions. We are the fastest search engine when it comes to vector anyways, than any other database out there. And we've tested this against a lot of the folks. You don't see a lot of them on here because the bars were too small. But fundamentally, we basically put out the fastest vector database in the world. So the engineering team has done an incredible job at this. Again, you can get it on Redis.io. You can get it on our cloud software or on-prem. So really, really excited. The team has done a fantastic job on this enhanced query engine. And I think it's going to open up tons of new use cases within your enterprise. And something that I'll just pick back up on something that you said, Talon, which was, it's about not having to introduce new technologies into your stack. If you're working for a business and Redis is already a certified part of your stack or available as part from your central IT department, you don't have to add anything. You don't have to bring in something new from your infrastructure to do something simple like what we just showed you, or to do something extremely complex, because this is one of the most powerful vector databases out there. So super excited. That's the new multi-threaded Redis query engine. All right, so that's Redis 8, and there's a lot more. Go take a look at it. The second thing that we're going to talk about today is developer experience. Now, at the core of Redis-server, if you've ever run it directly, is the product and the APIs, the command reference, is a real delight to use. This is some of the things that I experienced before I joined the company, was just coming at Redis sort of as a new user, as a new developer, can be a really, really good experience. And the product has frankly gone viral over the years as a result of this incredible experience at the heart of Redis. But part of the challenge that we were experiencing is we were getting lots and lots of new developers into the mix. As I said, we're up to 3 million sort of active developers across the world using Redis. And some of the feedback that we had, and I saw this myself, was that while the core of Redis is very nice and elegant and beautiful, at the edges, that experience could get a little bit, unkempt. So we had lots of different clients, for example. So if you want to figure out what's the best client to use for your particular programming language, we didn't really make a recommendation on that front. We didn't certify a particular client. You would kind of probably end up on Stack Overflow or maybe Reddit or some Discord server. In fact, this is what happened to me on a Discord server, debating with some developer about what's the best Node.js client. I mean, it was ridiculous. And so we hadn't done a great job over the years of sort of tending that garden and making that experience really, really delightful, so that you walk down a path that is smooth and easy and curated and everything else. And so that was one thing that we did, is we went and we bought all of the clients together. So for every single language, we picked the most popular and best clients, and we either acquired or we got sort of maintainer rights, or we bought, in some cases, the folks who were maintaining those, and we're bringing those now as part of the Redis 8 package. So what's good about that is when you go to our website, we now have code examples directly in the docs. We didn't have that before. And so you were kind of left to your own to do Google searches or use ChatGPT. Now we give you the exact code examples. You know they're going to work because we certify all of these clients for your favorite language with that version of Redis. This is a real big improvement. There's been a lot of work on the part of our engineering team to make that happen. And these are incredible clients. And it's allowing us to do things like launch client-side caching as part of these clients. That has actually, frankly, taken a long time when it was kind of all managed by the open source community. So bringing these in, throwing our arms around the experience has been a big part of that. We've also been able to integrate all the documentation. There actually used to be 2 sets of documentation for Redis, one on redis.io, one on redis.com. It was confusing, nobody understood it. So we put it all together in redis.io. It's the one place you go, all the documentation is there. And not just for all the commands and everything else that's part of the new Redis 8, but also for all these client experiences. So that's, I think, a really big part of what we've been doing. But we've been doing even more than that. We looked at one of the experience challenges with using Redis, and that experience challenge is getting your data into Redis in the first place. We did surveys and talked to lots and lots of developers. One of the pieces of feedback we heard was, I want to get started, but to do that, I got to hydrate my data into Redis. We're typically not the source of that data. We're representing that data and we're putting it in a scaling layer and making it accessible to your application. So getting the data in was a challenge and it took some time. And frankly, if you've been doing that for a while as a dev, you'll realize, yeah, I've done that hundreds of times, right? Every time I build a new app, I have to go and figure out, okay, well, I either have to start by writing a script to go get the source data, or I got to build, the cache has to take a while to build up, and so on and so forth. And we thought that we could just make that a whole lot easier. Why have everybody do the same thing over and over again if we could automate it? So we've been working on a brand new product to solve that problem, and that product we call Redis Data Integration. It makes it easier, and we're going to show it to you now because it is a real game changer for us and for our customers. So let's go ahead and play the video, and then we'll do a demo. All right, so this is Redis Data Integration. It's a brand new app. Like I said, it's built into Redis, which standardizes data pipelines from your database all the way, from your source database all the way into Redis. And then it automatically keeps that data in sync using CDC. So we're really excited. It's available now. You can get that as part of Redis software and Redis Cloud. And this is how it fundamentally works. What you have on the screen here on the, I guess the left-hand side is you have your kind of classic slow database, whatever that is. We know and love them. Now, instead of writing an app that goes and reads the stuff out and kind of hydrates the cache, puts it in Redis and so on and so forth, now we just insert RDI in the middle. And RDI sits in the middle. You can define exactly how you want to bring that data in, how you want to transform it, how you want to represent it within Redis. Obviously, we're key value, not structured, so you're going to represent it in some way, denormalized way, for example. And then on the other side, you're going to have your application, but your application is just going to talk directly to Redis, never talks to the backend data source. Now, in the background, what we are also doing is whenever that underlying source data changes, we're pushing that into Redis. So you don't have to think about cache eviction policies. You don't have to think about how do I set the caching policy exactly here, because you can just cache everything. Now we're going to come back to talking about caching everything later, but this is a really dramatic shift in the pattern that I think we are going to use in the future, which is going to be probably most applications are going to be built using this RDI technology because it does make it so much better. There's no other middleware components to use. There's no other fuss. There's no other things to inject into your infrastructure to make this work. It comes with Redis, and it's really beautiful. And so that's Redis Data Integration. A result of using RDI, I can give you one customer example. I can give you many. Axis Bank, one of the largest banks in, I think they're in India or they're in Asia Pac anyways, they had a big problem. They had a mobile app where they were seeing huge drop-off in customer retention because this app was too slow. And so they had put together a project plan, and they wanted to bring in Redis to make that faster. That's pretty straightforward, generally speaking, but it could take them some time. And they were able to dramatically increase the time that they were able to get to production because they didn't have to write any code. They literally were just able to insert Redis Data Integration in the middle, start to pump the data directly out of their backend database right into Redis, and then their mobile app developer just rewrote that to talk directly to Redis and started talking instead of talking to the backend database. And the result was 4x faster response time, of course, because Redis is so much faster. But importantly, all of the user retention issues that were associated with performance just went away overnight. And they did this really, really fast. So it was a great user experience for the developers who used it and for the IT folks, the operations teams who sort of made that happen. And so I thought it would be great if we could just show a demo of this actually working live on stage again. So we're going to challenge ourselves. Let's go ahead and show Redis Data Integration.
Awesome.
Talon.
Yeah, let's do it. This is probably my favorite demo out of the ones that we have today. It speaks a lot to my data engineer heart. Just like Rowan explained, I think before today, before RDI, we'd probably all build something like this, an ingestion script where we've got our connection details to Postgres, for example, is the data that I'll be bringing over today. And then our Redis connection details will connect to Postgres, will connect to Redis, and then finally we'll create a script of the data we want to bring in, right? Well, this isn't very efficient. I mean, obviously it's popular, but these scripts normally live on your local machine. It's nothing you're going to share with, your teammates. And if it's really important, and you're at a big enough company, you're going to send it to the data engineer to figure out, right? And if not, might have to create a cron job. It's just not a great process. So RDI is perfect for exactly this. So calling back to our banking app, right now we're just ingesting FAQs. But I'd like to bring over a whole new table that is essentially some self-serve documentation. So let's go into RDI. So let's Redis Insight. So you can use RDI in two different ways. If you prefer to use a CLI, it's there for you, of course. I do prefer to use it in Redis Insight, and I'll explain why. Well, so I'll show you as I'm going through this. So I already have an RDI server set up for us, which is set up on a Redis software node in a VM. And then the next thing that we have to do, essentially, is just create a pipeline. And there's three different ways we can do this. We can download from server, upload from file, or create a new pipeline from scratch. Let's build a new one together, and I'll show you why. So it's actually very easy. All you have to do is essentially select a pipeline type, which is, what are you trying to do with RDI? Are you trying to ingest data, trying to do write behind, or start doing federation? Also, you can select your database type. In this case, our demo is Postgres. So we make it very, very easy to do because all we're doing is essentially committing a configuration file, which is going to have the same things that I showed you before, like connection details, selecting the table we want. But now it's going to have that tethered connection between Redis and Postgres, and it's going to continue to stream those results and those changes after the initial sync. Luckily for today, I do have our script ready for us, ready to go. Like I mentioned, connection details, I'm selecting a table, and our target data type is JSON. So I'm essentially converting a SQL table in Postgres into JSON. And then another really cool thing that we can do is if you wanted to add any transformations to our data coming into Redis, we can go in and create a transformation job. Once again, we add templates to make this very, very easy to do. And then here, there's a couple different things that I feel like I've seen our customers use here. So if there's, for example, column names that don't really fit the structure of going from a very relational type structure into now we're going to key value, you might want to rename some columns. You can do that here very easily as it's coming into Redis. And what's great about this, if you're any sort of familiar with data engineering, this is amazing because it's not just one-time sync of just transformations. It's going to continually transfer that, right? So you can keep that structure in your table in Postgres, right? But then it's always going to have that change in Redis. I love that. And then another really cool thing is we do have a SQL and James Path editor that has autocomplete. So you could, if you wanted to, write in SQL or James Path and insert that logic into the transformation job. We won't do anything complicated like that today, so we'll go ahead and delete that. And the last thing we need to do is just deploy pipeline. I'm going to do a reset here just because I've done this so many times I need to. We'll deploy. Another reason why I prefer to use Redis Insight for RDI instead of the CLI is it provides us a statistics page so we can view kind of the metrics we want to look at as data is coming in. It shows an error. Don't worry. It's just me breaking the product as much as I can as I'm, let's see here. Reset, consider flushing. Okay, cool. We should be good. Okay, so this is the stats page I just described to you. So we're seeing our performance information for our data coming from Postgres into Redis. It's going to show our target connection, which of course in this case is our Redis Cloud database. And then the data streams overview, which is showing that the table I brought over from Postgres has been translated into 110 different keys in Redis, and then clients. So that's another reason why I like using RDI and Redis Insight. Okay, well, it's cool to ingest data, right? But why don't we make a change and see that change live? Let's go into our database and do a little refresh here. Oh, we're still in our indexes. Let's go back over to our keys. Okay, our data is here. Self-serve docs Postgres data. Let's pick an ID like number 1. And let's change something pretty simple. Let's say, for example, if you can see this subcategory, it says bonds. Let's go into my SQL editor. Let's go ahead and change bonds to stocks. We'll go ahead and execute that. Okay, it's gone through.
Here's where you cross your fingers.
Yeah, let's see. We'll do a little refresh. There you go, stocks,
right.
just like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's nice.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of RDI. I've been using it for well over a year, just while it's been in private preview and so forth. And there really isn't an easier way than today with RDI to really tether your data sources with Redis. So
that's awesome. And if you go back to the example you used earlier, Talon, take the search that we were doing with vector search.
Yeah.
Right? So you've indexed and created vectors on a bunch of PDFs. Well, this is a great technology where you can say, hey, that underlying data source could be changing. I mean, somebody adds a new PDF to the knowledge base or they whatever, and just having that automatically come back in. Think about a RAG pipeline where, if you're building a Gen AI app and you've got some underlying data source that you're ragging against, I don't know if that's a verb.
It is now.
It is now. Then, you can just not even have to think about any of that. You can set up an RDI pipeline, get all that data in, and then search against it and automatic. So awesome. Thank you for the demo.
Yeah, no worries.
Beautiful. All right, so that's RDI. So let's keep moving. We had a few other announcements to get to today. By the way, we have a little more coming in RDI. So of course, we're just shipping this now. You can start to take a look at the technology. I know some of the folks in the room are already using it. We're also moving forward. We've been listening to you. A big piece of the feedback is this is awesome, but we want to support multiple databases. And so here we have a really cool pattern coming in RDI. We're working on it now, which is data federation, supporting multiple backend databases. So think about Redis becoming a data aggregation layer within your architecture. So you don't have to think about the complexity of multiple backend databases, just everything goes into Redis, and that's the complete view that you can provide to your application. So really, really cool. Again, coming soon. So that's in the area of RDI. So the next problem that I want to talk about is making it easier to work with Redis. As you have seen from Talon's demos, we're starting to do some commands that are a little more complex than the commands that we began the Redis journey with, like get and set. What's so great about those commands is they're so easy to understand. Get keyname, get keyname, or set keyname to this value. Very, very simple, very easy to use. Now, what we talked about earlier with the merging of Redis Stack and the new Redis 8 is we're adding a lot more data types, time series, et cetera. We just talked about vector search and FT create and FT info. There's all these new commands that we've been adding to Redis. And the reality is, as a developer, my experience was they're not that easy to use. The search in particular for vector search is fairly complex. The syntax is not that obvious. It needs to be complex because it's a complex problem. But as a developer, what am I going to do to sort of figure out how to do that? And I want to bring that same ease of use we've always had, that same elegance of the user experience along the journey here as we make the product more and more complex and more capable. And so what we have done is leveraged, of course, Gen AI to do that. We built a brand new workflow. We built a brand new product to make this work and to make it even easier. And we're calling it Redis Copilot. So let's go ahead and roll the video, and then we'll give you a demo. Welcome to Redis Copilot. Okay, so we're going to give you a demo of Redis Copilot, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And before we do that, I'll just kind of set it up. The challenge here is how do you use some of these more, these new and much more advanced commands and do that very, very easily. Now, as I started to use these before we had Copilot, when I would run into trouble, I would go in Slack and I would message the developers and they would give me answers. That was great, but not everyone can do that. We don't have enough developers to go around for all of you. So we wanted to take all of their knowledge and everything that we knew about how to make this work really well and build that into our own chat experience, and then tie that also into your data. So let's go ahead and show them how it works. Talon, take it away.
Awesome. So let's return back to our banking app. It's pretty common for our FAQs or our documentation to refer our customers to go into branches, to do something local, right? Well, I think it'd be a great idea to build a map locator for our branches. But for me, I don't know about you, for me, that's kind of an intimidating task. So, I might start with Google, right? And I'm glad to see us at the very, very top of the list here. I'll skip the AI overview because it's actually reading off our docs. But literally the second result on our Google search is a Stack Overflow forum, which is nearly 5 years old. Who thinks that's going to be very helpful? I had the same feeling.
Warning.
So, let's be a little bit more realistic, right? We're all using ChatGPT or something similar to generate code questions and answers for us. Well, I asked it the same question. How can I create a map locator powered by Redis? And it's getting us a little closer. You can tell it's starting to read off of our documentation because it's mentioning Redis Enterprise. It's very, very specific to us. And also, it's going to tell us more about geospatial data types, like doing things like geoadd. And then, I could have been a better prompt engineer and told them I was using a Next.js app. But it starts to build me a random app. Great. Well, it's not super useful, but it's getting us in a better place. Well, Redis Copilot can take us to the next step. So there's two different ways you can use Redis Copilot and Redis Insight. First, you can use it generally outside of your databases to ask generalized questions about Redis trained on our documentation. And I might be biased, but it's going to be the most up-to-date and accurate Redis data on Earth. But it's a great Redis expert to have in your pocket. And then the cool thing is, it's not just a chatbot, right? The best thing about this, in fact, let's write tell me more about geospatial data. That might be my next question after going to ChatGPT. So it's going to give us the answer, of course, and some details. But it's also going to give us documentation that we can link to. And if you're very specific too, you can also generate some code. It's going to be very general, kind of like Copilot is, or like ChatGPT is, where it's not going to give you anything specific to your data. Now, the cool thing about this is if we switch to my data, and we'll go into our cloud database, look out of here, make it a little cleaner. Now we can ask it a very similar question, but now it has our data in mind. So I have a question copied here. I'll paste it. Can you show me how to create a geospatial index with my locations data? Accept.
And where is the location data? Is it under this one, location?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So it's going to know my
You didn't have to tell it that.
No.
Okay, that's cool.
It knows what you have there. And it's going to have us do an ft.create for our index for our geospatial data using my location data. So all I have to do is click run. It'll apply and create that new index for us inside of Redis. And now, as you followed along with our full text search and vector search, now that we have our index, all we have to do is point our code to it. So we'll go back into the code. I'm actually going to be fetching some of these locations through our API. And then we're using our geo search command using our locations data. And it's as simple as that. I'm literally just returning the longitude, latitude, radius, and unit, essentially putting locations on our map for our branches for wherever I'm nearby. So let's go to our map. And there it is.
Oh, wow.
So it's as simple as that.
That's awesome.
I don't know about you guys, but for me, what seemed like a pretty scary task, easily done with the help of Copilot. Back to you, Ron.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And by the way, I will tell on everybody. Well done. That worked. That was great. And by the way, under the covers, we are using all of our own technology. So that was essentially, think about that as a RAG-based chat application. We use OpenAI under the covers, and we've been using all of our vector database to do that work. We've been using semantic caching, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. We've been using a bunch of the actual technology that we've been building. We've been drinking our own champagne to deliver Redis Copilot. So really, really cool. Thanks for the demo. Can't wait for you guys to try it. Okay, so we've talked about now Redis 8 and all the great capabilities. We've talked about the dev experience. Now I want to talk about our platform, right? This is how we deliver this software to our customers, whether that's through the cloud or through our on-prem. And I'm going to talk about some of the new capabilities coming, but I'm going to focus mainly on Gen AI because that has been a big focus for us at the company based on feedback we're getting from all of our customers. How many of you are actively looking at, thinking about, or are actually building a Gen AI app at your company? Show of hands. Okay, so about a third of the room. So there's a ton of work going on across the boards, and we've been getting pulled into a lot of these early projects and POCs and also into production environments around delivering Gen AI apps. And so we've been busily adding a lot of capabilities underneath the covers, not just on the vector database, but also built above that in a new library that we talked about earlier. The developer's in the front row. He's going to talk to you soon, Tyler, about Redis VL. And so we've been able to build some really, really cool new capabilities into Redis, again, all based on what you've been telling us. So just a quick demonstration of that. And this is not sort of preview code or something that is eventually coming. We have many companies actually running this in production. One of our best partners in the world is Bank of America. Of course, we love all of our partners, but Bank of America has been doing great here. They have a chatbot called Erica. It's out there in front of their, 100 million users, however many they have at Bank of America. Someone can correct me. And they wouldn't be able to do that if they hadn't leveraged the Redis technology to make it happen. We use our own technology, as I mentioned, in Copilot. We're using a semantic cache. It's driven an 80% reduction in our OpenAI bills. So there's a lot you can do with Redis. A lot of these companies are doing that. DoorDash is another great example. You want fast and accurate information when you order your food. You don't want to find out later that something wasn't available. That means all that data needs to be available in real time immediately when you're ordering the technology. They're another company that's been using some of our Redis for AI technologies. So B of A, DoorDash, many other companies, and this is all in production. So this is real stuff that you can start leveraging in your Gen AI apps today. And so let's go ahead and roll a video. We'll show it to you in a minute. Go ahead. Okay, awesome. So there is a lot coming in Redis for AI. It comes in across these dimensions. It starts with, on the left-hand side, the vector database, which we already showed you and talked about in terms of the performance. But we've also been working on making it easier to use that vector database. So Talon's demo just now involved, for example, pulling in the data, and then he cut and pasted some code, so it was made it look a little easier than it probably was under the covers. But one of the things that he had to do was actually go get the embeddings from the OpenAI embedding model in that particular case. We have a great partner here with us today, Superlink. You can use Superlink to get your embedding models. Wherever you're getting them from, you have to do that manually. So we've been looking at all the ways in which we can add ergonomic improvements to Redis to make it easier to use the technology. Like I said, Tyler, who's here, is going to talk to you more about that as part of Redis VL, the vector library. But we've been able to build some really cool features based on the use cases we've been seeing. The first one is semantic caching. So semantic caching, if you go back to our Copilot example in the Redis Insight product, we got a lot of the same questions coming in. And if somebody says, how do I create a query in Redis, or how do I add map location to my data? We know that's a question that's going to be asked a lot. And we also know we don't have to ask that same question back to OpenAI many, many times over and over and over again. And if we do, it's just going to cost us a lot more money. So we built in, using the semantic cache into Redis Copilot, a way to dramatically reduce our OpenAI bills. I mentioned it earlier, we saved 80% on our OpenAI bills as part of Redis Copilot. And once we put it into production, once the question set got to around 5,000 questions that were in vector space, they're not exact matches, they're just in vector space. So we understand this is, how do I create a search, or how do I make an index, or how do I search this? You can ask that a million ways. It's always going to return you a great result. And we've cached those answers. So now about 80% of the questions you're probably going to put in, or the average dev will put in to Redis Copilot, is cached. And we did all that using our semantic cache. Now, there's a lot to it. It's not as simple as it sounds underneath the covers. Redis VL does a lot of that heavy lifting for you. But I think this is going to be one of the big game changers for companies taking these products to production. And while we saw an 80% reduction, I talked to one customer in healthcare that saw a 90% reduction in the consumer space. We've talked to others that are, as I would say, the low end of the cost savings have been around 30% in terms of your what you're going to be paying for OpenAI or whatever model you're using. Even if you're hosting your own model, you're going to be paying for GPU time. So you do really have to think carefully about cost. Of course, we are the kings of caching. We love doing caching, and this was a great way for us to take an expertise that we had and apply it in a brand new way. So semantic cache, also called prompt caching in other areas. So that's a great new capability, again, built into Redis VL. LLM memory is another example where we've been sort of adding new capabilities to make it easier to use Redis in a typical chatbot sort of application. And the example here, if you've ever been in ChatGPT, a few months ago, a quarter or two ago, they added memory. And it'll every once in a while, if you say, I like blue, the color blue the most, it'll say updated memory. So if you're doing that, to build a really great chat experience, you want to be remembering things about your user too. Where are you going to store those memories of those customers? No better place than Redis. And so we've made it even easier to do that in the product, and we've integrated into lots of different application frameworks. We're going to hear from one of our other partners today who's going to share just how easy we've made that. We've spent a lot of time taking these technologies and embedding them into the new emerging frameworks like LangChain and others, LlamaIndex, Hugging Face, et cetera, OpenAI, to make it easier to use these technologies. So that's another example, LLM memory. And a final example I'll call out for you here is semantic routing. What is that? Well, in many chatbot examples, you're probably not going to be sending the questions through to one LLM. What we've seen is, as you get to production, kind of turns out that it's going to often be important to bring multiple LLMs behind the scenes to be able to answer users' questions. Sometimes because it might be cheaper, so you have a very simple question which you think can be answered by a lightweight LLM, and so you want to send the question there. Sometimes it might be much more complex or thorny, and so you want to go with something super heavyweight like O1 Preview. Super expensive, super slow, quick, and fast. And so semantic routing is about deciding, based on what the question that's been asked, where do you send that question? Should I send to one LLM or another? Should I break it up? Should I recombine it, et cetera, et cetera? So semantic routing is a really important part of a RAG application pipeline, and we've been able to build assistance and new technology into Redis VL to make that easier. Finally, I should say, there's a lot of folks that are doing new inferencing projects. Obviously, Gen AI has really made it much, much easier, or has made it, I'd say, more effective and more popular to be doing your own machine learning tasks and your own inferencing. You're going to need a feature store. We are used in many of the world's most demanding feature store applications. 100 terabyte, every time you swipe your credit card, literally that credit card transaction is hitting a Redis feature store ML model that is running to detect fraud. So we're really in these very, very high scale applications, and the feature store is another great way to use Redis for AI. So again, we're going to get more. We're going to see from some of our partners. We're really excited about this, and we're excited to see what you're going to do for it. So that's Redis for AI. Some of the benefits of having this as part of Redis. Number one, speed. We're faster than any benchmark competitor. So of course, that's sort of first principles of Redis is we always have to be the fastest. I mentioned the second one we've worked really hard on. We're now integrated into over 30 different top AI platforms. And then finally, with the new multi-threaded search, we're proven at scale with 300x higher queries per second at a lower cost. So this is something that you can use in production. It's got that Redis brand on it. It's really amazing. So super exciting what we're doing with Redis for AI. All right, we're coming to the end here. As we have been rolling out more of these AI capabilities, one of the things that we began to run into with our customers was data set size. And we all know that Redis famously is a memory database. And memory can be very expensive. So if you take an image and you create a vector for it, that vector is usually much larger than the underlying data. If you're doing full text search like we just did, for example, the vector representations of the documents, we didn't show it to you, the vector representations of those PDFs are much larger, okay, than the underlying documents. And what that was creating is a situation where, oh my gosh, my Redis usage is just getting out of control. Anybody had that experience before? A couple of you. You're just blowing up in terms of the number of systems and machines. Okay, now our sales team loves that, but we wanted to make it possible for you to do that without breaking the bank. And so we've been working on this problem, and we've known about this for a while, by the way, so we did introduce a product some time ago called Redis on Flash, but it was a first cut at how we would potentially do this. And we didn't get into fiddling around with the core of Redis that much, and as a result, there was kind of some limitations on how much you could store on Flash and et cetera, et cetera. But we've been looking at this problem, and we decided that we were going to fix it. And so we are really, really proud to talk about and announce and launch a brand new product that we call Redis Flex. Redis Flex is our next generation storage engine that leverages not only memory, but also Flash memory. So I'm going to talk about how it works. It'll be available soon on Redis Cloud. So let's start out. The first thing that we needed to do was get a really, really fast storage engine. We want to continue to drive that sub-millisecond response time and low latency sort of promise that you get from Redis. And we also knew that modern Flash memory is really, really fast. It is much faster than it has ever been. In fact, today, the latest standard of Flash memory, NVMe 5, I think it is, it's on my notes somewhere, is actually PCI Express, right? Yeah, SSDs with PCI Express 5 are actually faster than the DDR RAM that existed when Redis launched. So Flash today, the latest Flash systems, are faster than RAM from 10 years ago. So that really caused us to rethink about Redis and how we should be thinking about it, and realize that we could do something very dramatic if we could re-architect the core of Redis to make it take advantage of Flash and RAM seamlessly in a way that you have control of the dial. And that's what we've built. We acquired a company called SpeedyB to do that. SpeedyB was an amazing technology company that was built on top of RocksDB, and it was built specifically to be the fastest Flash storage engine on Earth. Incredible team. They joined Redis earlier this year, and we've been working really, really hard to integrate that technology and go in and re-architect Redis to take advantage of it. And so what's the result of all that? The result of that, or I guess some of the benefits I should talk about, is that you get this technology everywhere. You can use, we talked earlier about RDI, for example, and how you could cache everything. And I sort of said, well, maybe we'll talk about that later. Well, how are you going to cache everything if everything is going to be stored in RAM? Well, with Redis Flex, you can store everything because it's going to be 5 times cheaper. Because Flash is 5 times cheaper than RAM on average. So we saw a very dramatic opportunity to improve here. Again, delivering that same sub-millisecond latency, a little bit slower. Flash is not as fast as memory, okay? But if we do things in a very clever way, we can leverage memory and do some things in the background to make sure that we achieve those things super fast. And as a result, we can deliver sub-millisecond latency, sometimes slightly more. And you get a much larger cache for the same money. So if you think about our core use case of caching, this is a really, really interesting one, because you could take your existing cache, and typically we have 1 gig or 5 gig caches in front of our database. And that's pretty good because it will cover 50, 60% of the hits, and so the app is generally faster. But what if you could just cache everything? So it turns out that if you implement Redis Flex, you get a 5 times larger cache. You never get any cache misses because you're caching everything. And as a result, your application gets faster, but you're spending the same amount of money. So you get a larger cache for the same money. So really, really excited to do that. Or you can take your existing Redis OSS, and this is probably a really common case. If you have an existing open source Redis instance, you could deploy Redis Flex, upgrade to Redis Flex, and you're going to save 5 times the money. You're going to get 5x performance out of that same hardware because we can now leverage the flash effectively on that device. So this is important as we talk about RDI, as we talk about vector, and all the new use cases coming. It had to be something that we solved, which is making use of flash, and we're really excited to be able to deliver that to you. 5 times larger Redis at the same cost. So really, really excited to bring that to everybody, and that is Redis Flex coming soon. So we're coming to the end here. We talked about community and how we've built the biggest, I think it's the biggest launch of Redis since our first version, Redis 8, in terms of capabilities. If you look back at the commit history, it is certainly the biggest launch of Redis, the biggest single version we've ever shipped. We're excited about that. We talked about all the developer experience improvements. We didn't actually show you all of them, but if you're a developer and you start to use our product, I hope you experience them. They're all available now. I hope you get to experience Redis Copilot and all the other stuff we talked about, et cetera, RDI, and then finally our platform. So we're doing a lot on the Gen AI front. So I hope that this has illustrated a little bit, given you a taste, for how you can use Redis beyond caching, how you can use us in new use cases, how you can use us in your Gen AI apps, and all that other stuff. So really, really excited about that. Now I just want to say that it's been a journey. We want you to stay on the journey with us. All of this technology that we talked about today, if you're using Elasticache on AWS or memory store in GCP, these technologies are not available there. These are only available on GCP and AWS through the marketplace or through Redis.io. So come and get access to those technologies. By the way, you can also get them natively on Azure. So Microsoft took the bold step to bring those technology natively to their platform through a product called Acre, and you'll see more on that in the future. So really, really excited to have you go try these out. Come to our website, talk to our folks. Thank you all very, very much. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Prachi. I work as an AVP of Engineering at JioCinema. I lead the content discovery and personalization charter, the primary goal of which is to ensure that customers are able to find the right content to watch based on their interests. A little bit about JioCinema. JioCinema is an OTT platform in India. We have content in over 19 plus languages. We stream both live and VOD content that spans across entertainment, sports, kids, news, and short form. We're the most downloaded app in India in 2023 and have around 100 million plus daily active customers. We currently hold the rights to stream IPL digitally. In fact, IPL 2024 ended in May just a couple of months back. A few stats to denote the sort of scale we deal with. During IPL this year, we got 26 billion views, which amounted to around 350 billion minutes of watch time. As a team, we are continuously shaping the streaming landscape and trying to raise the bar for what an app can achieve. Operating at our scale brings unique challenges like how to manage an immense workload while delivering a seamless experience to millions of users. Because of this, there are a lot of considerations that we have to account for while architecting our systems, especially when it comes to caches and databases. Maintaining low latency at high RPS or when a sudden spike of traffic comes is essential. They have to be easily scalable because of the variability in traffic that we get. Our RPS in live games can increase by 10x in a matter of few seconds. Traditional auto-scaling does not work for us because it takes time to kick in. And these solutions need to be reliable. They must have high availability, have failover solutions, and just be easy to build with and operate. When you're streaming a game for 30 million users, we don't have the luxury of reacting to issues as they arise. We need to invest in solutions that prevent them. Today, I'm going to talk about how we use Redis at JioCinema. We will talk about 3 use cases. The first one being the journey of playback of videos, where we use Redis as a cache and it is a read-heavy scenario. Second one is the measurement of streaming consumption, which is a way for us to denote how many views a content has received since the time it has gone live on the platform. We use Redis here and this is a write-heavy scenario. And finally, a use case covering our interactive experience where we use Redis as a primary database. This one is interesting because I think Redis as a primary database is not talked about very often. Alright, let's dive into the first use case, which is the journey of playback of a video. Every content on our platform is associated with a bunch of playback URLs. You play a video, you need playback URLs for it. This set of data, though, is mostly static. Once you encode a video, the playback URLs for that video do not really change unless you have a new video or you want to retransport the same video for some reason. The playback URL set, though, is not just one global URL for everyone. It is a huge set of URLs per content, and the URL that gets delivered to you is dependent on what platform you're streaming from: Android, iOS, web, TV, the capabilities of your device, whether it can do HEVC, AVC, Dolby, 4K, etc., which CDN your playback session is routed to, and a lot of other factors. We also need to always be ready for unprecedented sudden spikes which can correlate to an interesting moment in that game, release of a big movie or show, a viral short-form clip, or a breaking news story. So hockey stick spikes are very common for us in playback. And of course, since video is our bread and butter, this system needs to have high availability. This is the 10,000 feet view of our playback system. We have a primary database that stores playback URLs for every content and combination possible. We have a service called Playback Service that decides what URL should be delivered to each user on a device based on the factors we just discussed. We use Redis as a read-through cache here, and of course, there are a lot of other components involved to make a single session of playback possible, but we'll focus on our Redis setup here. Our Redis cluster here is deployed on GCP. It is an active-active database, and hence it acts like a clustered Redis. Clustering is an efficient way of scaling Redis that should be used in two use cases. One, when your dataset is more than 25 GB. When you enable clustering in this case, multiple shards of the database are created and data requests are spread across nodes. And the second is when the operations performed on Redis are CPU intensive, which can result in performance degradation, which was the case for us. By having multiple CPU cores, the load of operations is distributed amongst them. We have a standard hashing policy set on this database for fast access. We also have multi-AZ enabled here. In this mode, the cluster nodes are tagged with the zone they have been deployed in, and Redis ensures that primary server and replica Redis processes of the same shard are never hosted on nodes that are located in the same availability zone. This has actually helped us a few times. The benefit of adding a layer of Redis cache here is in case of sudden spikes, our database does not get overwhelmed. And that's what you want. When there are 20 to 30 million concurrent users on your platform, protecting the primary database against these surges becomes utmost important. Let's talk about the second use case, which is measuring the streaming consumption for a content. We show this number on the top right corner for all of our live events. If you remember the numbers that we spoke about in the first slide, which was 26 billion views, at that scale, this problem becomes interesting. When we are talking about such scale, this system does not have to be strongly consistent, but it has to be as accurate as it can get in a matter of couple of seconds. Let me walk you through how this works. Whenever a user goes on a content and plays it, our front-end clients emit events depicting that a playback session was started, along with a lot of other details. All of this user-generated data flows through our in-house event ingestion service, which then pushes it to Kafka, our data streaming platform. The event ingestion service here processes over 10 million messages per second, which amounts to around 5+ GB of data per second. There are multiple consumers that pick the data they need from Kafka queues. In this case, we have a consumer called Views Consumer that picks this data, reads it, decides based on business logic whether to consider an event as a view or on a video or not, and then eventually writes this data to Redis. The service that returns views for a content to be displayed on frontend then reads this data from the Redis. To optimize the process of high quantity of writes to Redis, we use pipelines and batch writes. This means instead of handling data writes one by one, we group them into batches and process them simultaneously. This approach not only reduces latency, but also enhances the overall throughput of our system. This is the pattern of spike that we see in our writes to Redis post-pipeline and batch writes. Point to note here is that this is not the total event count for view counter, but this is after pipelines and batch writes that we just spoke about. Notice how the writes in Redis go from 2,000 to 45,000 writes in a matter of few seconds. Moving to our third use case, where we use Redis as a primary database. Every time you go to watch a live stream on JioCinema, you will be able to see a stream of stickers flying across on the screen. This is a way for our customers to interact with the platform or show support for their teams. For each match, we have a set of free stickers and a set of paid stickers. The final sticker set changes for each match depending on the team and the players for that game. A user can go and buy a pack from the sticker bar. They can then use it on JioCinema or even on their WhatsApp. The pattern of data that we store here is the set of stickers each customer has purchased and the final set of stickers for each content. This is a very high-level view of our sticker system. Let's talk about the purchase journey first. Once a payment transaction is finished for a customer who wants to buy a sticker pack, an entry is made in Redis with the user ID and the set of sticker packs the customer has bought. When the sticker pack of the customer is loaded on the app, either when they try to play a content or otherwise, the request goes to sticker service. The service checks the login status of the customer. If they are logged out, we return them the static configured sticker set. If they are logged in, which is true in majority of cases, we retrieve this data from Redis. We do have this purchase data stored in another database in our data warehouse as well for backup, but in the high read customer flow, Redis acts as the primary database here. This is a snapshot of the reads in Redis for sticker use case in the SRH versus RR match of this year's IPL. If you see the spike around 9:20 p.m., it was the last over of the inning when SRH was batting. Notice how the RPS of reads increased by 5x in just a matter of few seconds. Now that we've covered how we use Redis at JioCinema, I want to spend some time discussing one of the challenges we faced during our prep for IPL this year. Before every big event, we run multiple large-scale load tests that we call game days, which mimic the user journey and behavior on our backend systems and generate the same amount of load. In one of our game days, we noticed that multiple services using Redis were facing degraded performance. When we started debugging, we realized that a burst of traffic on one of our Redis database had resulted in a high network egress. Our immediate thought was, why would one database impact other services using Redis which are not even using that database? At the time, we were using a single subscription in Redis with multiple databases in it. This means we have a physical cluster consisting of multiple nodes. Each node can contain multiple databases within that subscription. The issue with this approach was that if one database on a node faced issues, it could impact other databases on the same node. Our immediate response was to move our big impacting databases in our separate subscriptions. This approach would isolate high utilization databases, ensuring that their performance does not affect others. Before making this movement, we also tried other things which helped us. We moved the master nodes of our other databases in the same subscription into nodes that did not have the database causing high egress. This ensured that the high egress databases remain isolated. The second thing we did was to gzip the payload before saving the data in Redis. We compressed the data to optimize storage and transmission, which resulted in less egress. We went from 20 Gbps to 250 Mbps just by this optimization. Gzip, though, is an expensive process since gzip and unzip of data is CPU intensive, but it gave us the buffer we needed before moving the noisy neighbors out in a separate subscription. Well, to wrap up, sharing 3 key strategies that have been instrumental for us. The first one is to keep the size of keys in Redis to less than 10 KB. By keeping the size of our keys below 10 KB, we optimize memory usage and improve data retrieval times. Smaller key sizes lead to faster access and lower latency. The second one is to separate unrelated databases into different subscriptions. To prevent performance issues and ensure better resource allocation, separate unrelated databases into different Redis subscriptions. This approach minimizes the risk of one database impacting another and allows for more tailored resource management based on the specific needs of each database. And the last one is to use pipelines. Pipelining in Redis is similar to the bullet train concept. It allows us to batch multiple commands together and send them in one go. This reduces the number of round trips required between our application and Redis, significantly improving efficiency and reducing latency. Pipelining is especially useful for operations that need to process large volumes of data quickly and reliably. Well, closing thoughts, Redis has been a good partner for us to meet our requirements. It's easy to use and works out of the box. And we are pretty excited about all of the amazing features that have been announced today. Thank you.